Welcome to Crypto BS. I'm Craig.
And I'm Al.
And today, we're talking about rule number 5.
Rule number 5.
What is rule number 5, Alan?
Well, it's not your favorite rule, Craig. Your favorite rule is know your limits. And as you mentioned last time, you have no limits. Check the chart is what we're going to be going over today, Craig.
Check. Mike checking the charts.
Thus far into our 8 simple rules, we have gone over being patient, having a plan, scaling in and scaling out, knowing your patterns, and now we're on checking the chart. And as you can see, a lot of these begin to work together. And this is kind of our comprehensive list that we're giving you out. Again, we have a few that we don't completely agree on, but these are the ones that we have come to the conclusion make the most sense for both of us, even with our extra rules that we personally have.
So, Alan, when you're checking the charts, what exactly are you checking?
There are multiple things that I'm looking for. It kind of helps make the plan. That's kind of what it's here for, is to help you make the plan. It's more of a reminder rule than anything else. It is my anti-FOMO rule. It helps me be patient if I follow it correctly, which I don't always do. It helps you verify the patterns. It keeps you from jumping in when the market starts running like it did this morning. When everything started falling, there was some news that came out today about Russia and the annexation of the 4 territories that they've taken. That looks like what stirred the market and caused a pretty significant drop. So if you're watching that fall and you're just like, oh man, either I really need to get in, or I need to short it, or I need to get out, taking your time to check the chart there will help you make a more rational decision. It gives you time to look at your RSIs, the total volume, helps you set your take profit zones, and then even the time frames when you're going to be looking to make those adjustments. I mean, really, what do you look for when you're checking the chart, Craig?
I'm looking for patterns, and I'm looking at the RSI. Sometimes I'm looking at Bollinger Bands, but for the most part, I'm looking to see trend lines. I'm looking for support, resistance, and then I'm looking at that sweet, loving RSI.
Well, it lets, for the thing that you hit on the knowing your patterns from our last session, that channel. It lets you see those channels to help you make that correct call on your tops and bottoms, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think the only addition that you would use from the last rule is to know your patterns, and this is more or less a rule that says use your patterns. It's know them, and then now before you make decisions, go identify them and use them to your advantage.
That's it. That the rule, all in all, is fairly simple. It is almost common sense, except for the part where you don't actually do it, and you get caught up in the movement of the market.
Sometimes you get very excited, and you see things are dropping, and you want to buy in, or things are ramping up, and you think it's time to take profit, but you don't really know until you check the chart. And I think that's where the rule comes into play. Sometimes you get really excited and you think now's the time to strike. And then you go look and you think, well, yeah, the 15-minute RSI is up there above 70, and the 1 hour RSI is up there above 65. And then you look at the days, you back up a little bit and you see, it's only at 40. Like, we're coming out of a bottom pretty strong, but there's probably still room to go up.
Well, for me, this is part of the places where we separate, and the news part for me, which is what I think causes a lot of that movement, and you care nothing about, is the news and what happens. It's interesting today that just before the show started, we both got into some plays, completely separate cryptos, and neither one of them had really big news that came out on it. As a matter of fact, with the one that you got into, I specifically searched for news for it because I wanted to know what is going on, what is causing this. Is it going to be long-term or is it going to be short-term? You didn't care at all. You were strictly looking at the chart. You were looking at the volatility, how hot this particular one is.
So just we put some context to this conversation, because maybe one of our viewers that watches this shortly after we post it, let's put some names and numbers here.
All right, fire away.
Here's the play, and this is a play that I'm using in our challenge. This is with challenge money. We're looking at ERN. It is
Eternity Chain.
Eternity Chain, yep. And Eternity Chain in the last 24 hours is up 153%. And that's currently. It was up another 10% on the current price, which would probably be another 30% from the ramp price from a day ago. So it was up about 180% in one day. And that screams to me short. Short it. So I did check the charts. And I look at the RSI, and I start with the short term. I look at, what are we looking at on the hour candlesticks? And on the hour, it's been up at this price now for, it looks about 14, 15 hours. So it's at 68 on the RSI, which is still pretty high. 70 is more my line, but we're at 68. You back up to 4-hour candlesticks, 86 on the RSI. You look at the day, 88 on the RSI. And then we get to the chart. We get further into the TA. I'm looking at the previous spike was a high of 275 and some change. And there was a couple small spikes, a one-day spike before that where we hit a 245, and the one before that was a 313. But it hasn't been this price since back in May of this year. So almost half a year ago was the last time we saw prices this high on this coin. And for it to do that in a day screams, I don't know what's going on, but I bet it's coming back down. And Alan, I would like to do a little over-under game with you right now. Just because we love games.
We do love games. All right,
and
what do we got?
Here's the over-under. I got in at $4. And I told you shortly after I got in, it kept going up a little bit. So now the question is, it's been all of 10 minutes that I've been on this trade. Is the over-under, or the over-under line will be
what you got in
401. I'll give you an extra cent.
Oh, man.
And you give me the over or the under. And then based on your answer, I'll give you another line.
All right, so I'm trying real hard looking at Craig to decipher what it is. Is he trying to bluff me? Oh my God. And now he's hiding his face. I'm going to take the over. I think it is over what you got in.
Okay, I will tell you you're wrong.
It's already going down.
It is already down.
Oh, you nailed it.
Now
okay.
let's guess how much it's down. We'll put the line at 397.
It's under.
It is under.
Can I make a call now?
Oh, go for it.
It is currently at 392.
It was 393. It's very volatile right now, though. It's already back up to 396 in the minute it took me to do that.
To play the game, yeah.
But yeah, it's moving, but it is. I mean, it's having a hard time staying above 4. And that's my play. That's my play today. Is I looked at the RSIs. I looked at previous highs. We saw no news that is out there to pump it. And if we can't find it doing a Google search for it, there shouldn't be that many people buying into it to pump the price up.
There's some whale games going on with this. Not that this is a big play, but somebody is trying to sucker people in by having this run up like this. So Craig, I think, is probably in the right mindset on shorting something that is going this hot. But as we saw with Burger, man, they can pump it again and pump it again. Mm-hmm. And then by then, it may be secondary or tertiary effects of other people that are jumping on it, that are driving it up as whoever
But this goes into rule number 3 of scale in, scale out, in which we don't put the whole challenge money on this. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We put a portion significant enough to where if it hits how I want it to, it's significant. But if things go sideways, I got another bullet in the chamber ready to go.
So what is your take profit zone right now? What is your exit zone?
So anything under $4 is profit zone. My exit, I have the limit set at $2.95. And The reason I did $2.95 is one, it's just below the barrier of the $3 mental barrier. And two, the 4-hour candle before this hit at $2.75, which was that previous high that we saw. So I think the $2.75 is a very reasonable support line to see coming back down. I imagine it'll go back down all the way at some point. I just don't know when. But it's just above that support, and it's just below the mental support, and I'm playing the $2.95.
Okay, well, that sounds pretty good. That the only news that we could really find regarding this is that there's a rumor, and I cannot stress to you how much of a rumor that this is, enough that it was even hard to find a rumor that is completely and utterly unsubstantiated, in that Meta is looking at using this. And I haven't seen anything other than that.
Though, why would Meta use a
Ethereum
token that neither of us have ever heard of before?
I don't know. Maybe it's just that something that they could take complete control over, or maybe it's something that somebody threw out there just to pump it. I don't know. There was some additional Meta news that came out today regarding, and this was legit Meta news, that they are allowing you to link your crypto accounts directly to their platform. So if you want to link your crypto account to Facebook, have at it.
I have another question for you. And this is just a off-the-wall question. We're talking about Facebook. Facebook getting into the crypto sphere. What chain do you think they would most likely use for any of their activity?
Oh, man. I think they would want to use something that they could control. And so even with the news for them allowing you to link your accounts, remember that they're data-driven. And what they want is for, under the guise of KYC, the Know Your Customer stuff, they even want you to link all of your anonymous crypto accounts to it so that they can see all of your transactions. Why do they need to see what your transactions on your crypto account is in order for you to link to Facebook? There's no reason, there's no Know Your Customer reason that they need to see all of your transactions. They're in the data business. Never forget that, and that's what they're looking for.
So what chain do they go with?
They would most likely use.
You think it's gonna be some no name that they can just buy up?
Yes, because that's what they do. They would either develop their own or purchase one.
Now, I think develop their own is probably the most likely,
Well,
because they have control on it.
They tried that a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the Libra chain when they're doing the Libra stuff.
I remember Libra. Yep.
Okay, and that got shut down by the government. They were like, "No way that's happening. We're not going to let somebody else that's this big have this much control over finance."
Okay, so my next best guess would be, if they were to use a chain, I think it would be Matic. And I have no valid reasoning for this, other than when I think fast, reliable, and cheap, I think Matic.
I think that you should be thinking control. If they can't control it, I don't think that they want it.
But if they're not allowed to develop their own, I don't know that using some no-name brand is going to be optimal for them either.
It wasn't that they were trying to they didn't get shot down because they were developing their own cryptocurrency, but it was their own value. It wasn't their own chain that was the problem. It was something that was going to compete with the US dollar that was developed by a private company that the United States could control because they're a United States-based company. I think that it would be something that they would purchase that would have its own intrinsic value when they purchased that chain and the ability to control the chain and see all the data. And if they can't do that, I don't think they want it. And I don't think that Matic would fall into that category. Of course, I don't think Eternity chain would be it either. I would be shocked if it comes out and that is the case. Shocked. Interested.
Absolutely.
And eating popcorn watching this to see what happens next, because I think it'd be pretty wild. But that was the meta news for that. That's pretty substantial that they're looking at being able to add that to it. There was a lot of Ripple news that was out. The Hinman calendar got released this week, and It looks like Hinman definitely got a $15 million bonus at the end of his retirement gift from some Ethereum groups, and that he had met with them previously, and on the date that he gave the speech. That was pretty interesting, which the Ripple Army had been calling that out. The XRP Army had been calling that for a long time, and finally got it released. That's pretty interesting. Link partnered with Swift. I think that's pretty big. I was looking at Link over the weekend. Never quite hit what I was the amount that I was looking to get in at, but I think I'm definitely going to add some more because I think that's just more usage for Link, and I think that's a pretty good one. It's still less than $8, and it's been up in the 30s. I think that's a pretty good chain to get in on. Crypto.com got approved to launch in France. We talked about that a month or two ago, maybe several weeks ago, that was something that they were trying to get in on. It was approved, so there's going to be some more growth for Crypto.com, and you're a big Crow guy, so that's good news for Crow.
You know, I'm a little disappointed, Al, because nobody ever sent me anything to my Kronos ID.
Maybe you should give it out again.
Which, by the way,
can you remember what it is?
Yes, it's Craig2.crow. Easy, but that's a capital C on that Craig, by the way. But I did find out that as long as you're using the Crypto.com app or the Crypto.com DeFi wallet or anything that has the Crow blockchain, you can send it to that address. It doesn't have to be Crow specifically that you're sending. So you can send Bitcoin, Ethereum, otherwise. As long as you're on that blockchain, you should be good.
Well, I took a short on Ethereum today. I did hit a short early this week and a long. I had already drawn my chart out, and I was watching it. I did try to front run Ethereum once it fell through. I didn't wait for the retest. I did get in. So I'm down just a little bit now because it's pushed on up, but it's starting to fall again. And I'm looking at getting out of my Ethereum at about 1280 and taking some profit on that. We didn't even tell them about the challenge. So new listeners, Craig and I have a challenge where each week we add $100 to our trading account. Our intent is to grow it to $100,000, and there are no rules once that money hits the account. Craig's had a little bit of money on the sidelines, so this week he has decided to short ERN. I have grown mine pretty good, and I'm going to have shorted ETH, and I'm going to take my profit at about 1280. If I hit that, then I'll be sitting at about 1200 in my margin account, and I've got that put me right at around $2,000 total on our. What week are we in, Greg? Is this week?
I think it's 14.
Yep. Yeah. So I'd be up about 600 or so if I hit this, and if I get stopped out, then I'll be down a little bit. But is there anything you're looking at going into over the weekend or anytime soon, Craig?
Nothing specifically. I've mostly just been watching the indices and maybe a few of the top players and just checking the charts and waiting for my time. I
am looking at Link. If I hit this, I think I may do a little DCA into Link. I do have one of the sites. I think Crypto.com. I think you can get about 2% on it if you stake it for the 3 months. I don't remember seeing it on KuCoin, and on Gemini it's like 0.2%. So it's not even hardly worth running through over there. And those are just right off the top of my head. May have some other sites that it may be bigger on.
Why don't you short ERN? Do you like making money?
I love making money.
Well, let me tell you, up 150%. All-time high, not all-time highs. Highs as far back as 6 months from now. Almost twice as high as the previous spike. Ramped up, big green candles. No news. Fair enough?
I'm already in a trade, bud. That was fair enough. But I'm already in a trade, so I'm gonna wait and see if mine hits. Maybe I'll look at getting in your trade. But I do. The other thing I do like that I've been watching with all the good Ripple news that's coming out, and I talked about it a couple months ago on getting in and doing the Ripple bot as well. I think that's a good one to get into.
My Ripple bot is up 10%.
Man, Ripplebot's looking good.
Unfortunately, I only put $100 in there. So I'm up $10 on it.
Well, I mean, if Ripple goes to the famed 589, you'll be a happy camper.
I'll be very happy.
Let's see. Like I said, Link looks good to me. I like Matic. I'm looking at Scallop, which is a very small coin. It looks pretty good to me. And Reef has had some really good movement here lately. I think it's around up 30% or so in the last couple of days. And I do like that for a long term. I remember last year it had some really good movement. I think it's got some good possibilities for a year or two out for a DCA play for me, which I'm not a huge fan on, but as long as I'm making money on the shorts and through the margin, I don't mind putting some in there. Again, I want to try, my long-term plan is to try to keep my margin trading account equal to the amount of money that I have in on the DCA part of it. So as long as I'm making money on one side, I don't mind putting in a little bit on the DCA aspect of it. I've got Cardona, and I've got, what was the other one that I put into? Pretty good, AVAX. And AVAX is down from what I originally put into it. I think my average is around $20 or so. So I wouldn't mind getting in a little bit more of that. I think they've had some pretty good news that has come out recently as well. So for the weekend, I don't see any huge news. There's been a lot of Bank of England news, Bank of Japan news that's come out that looks real scary for the rest of the world that could cause some pretty good negative impacts in the short term. So for me, that helps me feel a lot more comfortable on taking a short. So that may end up helping you on your ERN news there. And then I guess the other really big news that happened was the FTX news on them purchasing Voyager. Now, Craig, when we talked about the Celsius, the Voyager 2 months ago, you said that Celsius will do what's best for Celsius.
Indeed.
Mashinsky's out now. I'm interested to see if FTX also buys Celsius. I think that would be a huge play. As somebody, I've got a Celsius wallet that's got a pretty good amount in there that's tied up, but I don't know that we'll end up ever getting anything out of it. But it's interesting that FTX is buying a lot of these other platforms and kind of consolidating some of the U.S. platforms. Do you think that Celsius would take an offer from FTX?
Absolutely.
Do you think they would take a loss just to get out of it?
No.
You think they're going to go for profit? Because that's what Voyager did. They sold for $1.4 billion, and the company was valued at $1.3 billion. So they took a $100 million bonus for losing a lot of people money.
Absolutely sure Celsius would take an offer like that.
Well,
you go from a company that's not doing so well, has paused withdrawals, has lost a lot of faith in its customer base, and then somebody else comes in and offers you a boatload of money equal to, at, or around your valuation. You get out. You get out before things go south and you don't get any more offers.
I don't know who else would make an offer for them. It's interesting. Well, let me ask you this, because here's what FTX is doing. They're expanding their customer base by purchasing Voyager. And I can't remember exactly how many customers, 1 million customers, whatever it is. It ends up coming out to being about $30 per new customer head that they're acquiring for that $1.4 billion. Is that worth it from a company standpoint to buy your customers for $30 a head? Is that cheaper than actually marketing and buying Super Bowl ads and everything else, paying Tom Brady or?
I mean, it's got to be. It has to be. I mean, if not only in the sense of the comparison between marketing costs and getting a customer, but even just the return on the dollar amount per customer you could get. I mean, $30 in fees is not a lot. $30. I've spent almost $30 on one transaction, but that was network fees. It's not the same. But even on KuCoin, we're paying what, 0.1%? I mean, $30. What is that even? Is that 30 grand? You'd have to. I'm trying to do the math. Yeah, I think 30 grand of transactions would make back your $30 on 0.1% fees. Now that sounds like a bit, but you're talking about a lifetime potential customer. And there's going to be some big customers on there that bring up the average and make up for the smaller customers. So yeah, I mean, 30 grand sounds like a lot, but that's 30 grand of trades. You don't have to deposit 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
You can deposit 1,000 and you just end up moving it over about 30 times and boom, you're done.
Well, so, it's interesting from that standpoint when Sam Bankman-Fried is looking at purchasing, because he also looked at buying Celsius, but there was a $2 billion hole in their portfolio, and he decided not to go with that and ended up going over to Voyager. Would it be worth it for one of the other ones, Gemini or Crypto.com or, Coinbase even, to go in to buy those customers, for those Celsius customers, just to compete with FTX?
There's more than just a customer that you have to consider here, because I don't know that they can just buy it and then run it. Like, they're going to have extra personnel in order to do so. So you're looking at existing staff, how easy it would be to streamline operations and get them more in line with what you're doing with your own company. And then you have to look at the profitability of that too. You may pay $30 a head per customer, but your company's only bringing in $1 a head on a yearly net profit, and you're looking at a 30-year ROI. I mean, that's a lot. And then you have to take into account, you could have grown your own brand, but now you're trying to grow 2 brands. Is it twice as much money to try to do that?
Well, maybe you just absorb them into your platform.
That's going to be rough, because then you might as well have just banked on the company failing. I mean, they're getting bought out for a reason. They're not doing hot. Let them fail. You get some of them, you're good. And heck, some of those people may already be your customers, is the other part.
That is very true.
Because a lot of people have multiple wallets. I mean, I have 4 or 5 of them myself. Mm-hmm. So, if it was a situation where, KuCoin was going down and I had to find another wallet, I'm not going somewhere new. I'm just going to move them to one of my other wallets. So I have a hard time believing that there's not some crossover where if they had 1 million people using, what was the name of the company again? I forgot it.
Voyager?
No, not Voyager. The one they're buying
FTX?
Now. Nope. Hit me with the other one.
Celsius.
There we go. You got 1 million people on Celsius. I have a hard time believing that there's none of those using FTX or whichever other company would want to be buying them. So you have to factor that into the equation as well. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell for me to say go buy them. But at the same time, you have existing customers, and if you look at the financials and it's good, I mean, because let's be honest, those companies bring in good money. And so, yeah, they spent $1.4 billion on Voyager, but is it so hard to believe that those people aren't already bringing in 200 plus million a year in fees and others? I mean, and even if only half of that is net, if it takes half of that to run it, I mean, you're still looking at a 14-year ROI. That's not that bad. I mean, it's a bit, but in comparison to stocks, you look at a price to expense ratio or a price to earnings ratio. Those tech stocks get nuts. I mean, you'll see them 100, 150, 200 plus. And if you were to buy out that company at the current earnings, you're buying it at that. That's crazy. Now, those are valued in that way because there's a lot of expected growth. But what is crypto right now except for expected growth?
Right.
So, yeah, it would be based purely on what the earnings look like. But if they're not good, there's no way I'm buying it. I'm not buying it for the customers. I'm buying it because you're bringing in money right now.
Well, let me ask you though. Here's your would you rather. If you were Crypto.com, would you rather buy Celsius knowing that there's a $2 billion hole in their balance sheet, or spend the money to acquire new customers altogether, even though FTX just added 500,000 to 1 million new customers.
I'm gonna stay on the marketing side. I'm not buying Celsius. They're $2 billion in the hole. They're not earning money. They're a sinking ship. And
sinking? They're sunk. They're done, son.
They're not dead yet, but they're close enough to it. They still have the mast out of the water. But, I'm gonna spend $2 billion on a company that's not earning money, and I'm doing it just for the customers. Again, how many of those customers are going to just have other wallets that they move over to as soon as you let them withdraw their money? And compare that to how many customers could I have just gotten with $2 billion? I mean, they're doing well. Let's be real. Crow's doing well.
Okay, well, but so let's say that it's same kind of scenario where it costs you $30 to acquire that customer base. Even for me, if I'm your new customer, which I have a crypto.com wallet as well, and the Celsius wallet. So you just bought that, and you're not gaining me as a new customer to crypto.com. But what you are gaining is releasing that crypto back to me to allow me to trade it again. I could make you your money back on a few trades, make you that $30 back on your platform that you just opened up that crypto to me.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble, though, because what happens if you as a customer say, thank God my stuff is unlocked and I can move it, I'm getting the heck out of this platform, and I just throw it over to KuCoin. Then you're not getting anything off of me other than that one transaction that I did to move it out of there.
Well, I think what will happen is that when FTX unlocks the Voyager accounts, they'll make it where you have to sign up for an FTX account in order to unlock it. And if you already have an FTX account, the only wallet that you can move it to is your FTX wallet. After that, you can move it out. But you're getting those transaction fees moving it out, whether they're bought or sold. At least they're coming through you once. But same type thing. If you're back to our scenario, you unlock my Celsius wallet and I can only transfer it to crypto.com, I'm going to transfer it there, but I'm not going to transfer it again just to move it off of you. I'm already comfortable with you as a crypto.com owner to move my stuff over there to it. I'll just trade it on yours. I'm not going to move it twice just to get it away. And if I end up selling it, then I'll sell it on your platform. You still get the fees for it, and then I can move it back to my fiat wallet if that's what I choose.
If I see. If they go about it the correct way, I'm sure they can find a way to be profitable on the acquisition. But if they don't do it the right way, it's a waste of money.
Well, and again, back to the Celsius part of it, the problem with them is that you're trying to make up $2 billion that's gone, whereas FTX is not trying to make up the $2 billion hole in the balance sheet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough sell. I mean, if I'm any one of these guys, I'm looking at how do I compete with the other big names, and I don't think the competition is by buying a failing business. I think the competition is I got to find a way to offer something new or better rates or just make myself a household name, kind of like the way Crow is doing it.
Hey, listen, sometimes you just have to reach down and grab your balls and then buy a failing company just to get access to those customers. You just got to do it. You want those customers, you want them to feel comfortable with you, bring them back into the crypto folds so that they'll trade on your platform.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right. It was a good show, Craig. Good show. Let's get out of here, let these folks get back to their business, and tune in next week for our 8 simple rules for trading crypto. I'm Al.
I'm Craig.
See y'all next week.